Success is not a chase. It is not a hunt, a sprint, a mad race into the unknown. You do not lunge at it, grasp for it, or demand it into your hands. No success is something you attract, not by effort alone, not by urgency or desperation, but by the person you become. It is magnetic, and you, whether you realize it or not, are a living magnet. Every day you are pulling things into your life not by accident, not by chance, but by vibration, by alignment, by the energy of your thoughts, the weight of your habits, the depth of your self-image. You don't get what you want. You get who you are. So if you want more, don't reach outward. Reach inward. Dig. Strip back the layers of distraction and vanity. Lay your soul bare. Ask yourself not, how do I get ahead? But what must I become to deserve what I seek? Because success does not respond to need. It responds to value. And your value rises when you do. Most people never understand this. They chase goals like shadows, clawing, grinding, hustling not, realizing the thing they're chasing is fleeing because it doesn't recognize them yet. They have not become the version of themselves who can hold what they seek. And so, even if it arrives, it slips through their fingers like smoke. But the wise do not run. They rise. They rise in the morning with purpose. They rise in challenge with power. They rise in failure with perspective. They rise not because it's easy, but because they know the only way to attract more is to become more. Your life will never outgrow your identity. And so it begins with the most sacred territory of all, the mind. Your mindset is not a tool. It is a temple. It is not what you visit when it's convenient. It's what you live in. Every belief you hold, every thought you repeat, every word you speak is shaping your future. You cannot attract abundance with a mind soaked in scarcity. You cannot attract strength with thoughts soaked in fear. You cannot attract greatness if you're still loyal to your limitations. So, clean house. Audit your inner world. Dismantle the mental architecture that keeps you trapped. Tear down the ceilings you've built with your doubts. Burn the blueprint of good enough. And begin again this time with vision. See yourself clearly. Not through the eyes of your failures. Not through the lens of your past. But through the eyes of possibility. Ask yourself, what would the highest version of me believe? And then begin believing it before the world gives you permission. Because belief is the seed of all attraction. You don't attract what's possible. You attract what you expect. The world mirrors your inner certainty. It reflects your self-image. It does not respond to begging, it responds to conviction. And conviction is born the moment you say, this is who I am now. This is what I do. This is what I stand for. Not, I'll try. Not, I hope. But I am. And when your identity is upgraded, your standards follow. You stop settling for half-hearted efforts. You stop tolerating circles that dim your flame. You stop explaining your hunger to people who've never tasted purpose. You don't just move differently. You vibrate differently. And everything around you begins to shift. Because clarity arrives like thunder. And when it does, it cuts through the fog. You're no longer confused. You're no longer distracted. You're no longer pulled by every shiny object on the horizon. You know who you are. You know where you're going. And everything else becomes noise. Clarity is the great filter. It makes decision-making easy. You stop chasing opportunities and start attracting alignment. You say yes to your mission and no 1,000 times no to anything that pulls you from it. Because when you are clear, you are dangerous. And when clarity meets vision, your life catches fire. Vision is not about fantasy. It's not about what looks good on paper. Vision is the soul's GPS. It's the divine whisper that says, you were made for more, not just to exist, not just to function, but to ignite. And when you listen, truly listen, you begin to see. You see the life you were born to live. You see the work you were born to do. You see the person you must become to walk that path. And that vision, it changes you. It makes comfort feel like a cage. It makes small talk taste like ash. It makes mediocrity intolerable. You stop asking, what's the least I can do to get by? And you start demanding, what's the most I can become before I die? And that question, that sacred question, sets fire to your purpose. Purpose is not what you find, it's what you choose. It's what you decide to make matter. Purpose is born the moment you say, this will not end with me. I will not go quietly into the ground. My life will mean something. Not for applause, not for legacy, but because you were given breathe and that breath must count. And when you live from purpose, you no longer need motivation. You become moved. You become possessed. You no longer need permission to act. You act because you are. And action, consistent, unrelenting action, becomes your prayer. Action is the bridge between identity and reality. You can think, you can dream, you can meditate and visualize, but if you don't move, nothing moves. Success is not attracted to thoughts alone. It is attracted to embodied truth, to the man who wakes up and honors his word, to the woman who shows up when no one's watching, to the soul who says, I will be the evidence of what's possible through discipline. Discipline is not a punishment. It is devotion. It is sacred repetition. It is the ritual of kings and queens who build empires not with noise, but with silent, consistent action. Discipline is remembering that you don't need to feel like it, you just need to become it. Because feelings are fleeting, but identity is forged in fire. And when you act from identity, results follow like shadows. Because you're no longer dabbling. You're no longer visiting greatness on the weekends. You live there now. And when you live there, when greatness is no longer a destination, but your address, something remarkable begins to unfold. Gratitude begins to flood your being, not as a forced ritual, but as a natural state of existence. You begin to feel rich before the riches arrive. You begin to walk in power before the recognition comes. You begin to honor the moment you're in, not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. Gratitude becomes your default frequency. Not because everything is easy, but because you've learned to see everything as useful. The delay teaches patience. The struggle teaches strength. The closed door teaches direction. You stop labeling things good or bad. You start asking, what is this trying to make of me? And when you live in that space, you stop resisting life and start partnering with it. You don't attract success by cursing the storm. You attract it by learning how to dance in the rain. You become adaptable. You stop needing life to bend to your plan. You learn to bend with life. You become water fluid, flexible, forceful when necessary, but never rigid. Because rigidity is the enemy of evolution, and evolution is the oxygen of success. Those who cannot adapt will be buried by change, but those who flow will rise with it. Adaptability isn't weakness. It's a quiet kind of wisdom. It's knowing who you are at your core and being willing to change everything else to serve that core. And when you adapt, when you adjust, when you keep moving forward despite the discomfort, something sacred is born. Resilience. Resilience is not just endurance. It is alchemy. It is the power to take pain and turn it into power, to take failure and forge wisdom, to take heartbreak and extract strength. Resilience is when the world throws dirt on you and you use it to grow roots. When people count you out, but you're still counting reps. When life knocks you down, but your soul whispers, get up. This is where champions are made. And you do. Not because it's easy, not because you want to, but because your identity no longer allows quitting to be an option. You've become the kind of person who doesn't need success to be visible because you've already made it inevitable. And that kind of resilience becomes rare. And what is rare becomes valuable. And what is valuable attracts. It attracts the people, the opportunities, the momentum. But it doesn't stop there. Because now you're learning not just growing, but compounding. You're learning at a higher level. Not just consuming information, but transforming with it. Learning is no longer a task, it's your weapon. You're no longer reading books to finish them. You're reading to become them. You're listening not to agree, but to expand. You're observing not to copy, but to understand. Because the learner always leads. And the one who stops learning stops earning. The world changes fast. But the one who learns faster always wins. Not because they're smarter, but because they are more committed to growth. And growth is the final law of attraction. You grow, life responds. You expand, life bends. You stretch, life yields. Because life is not happening to you. It's responding to you. It's echoing back your vibration, reflecting back your habits, mirroring back your identity. You don't chase success. You become someone it cannot ignore. You don't beg for abundance. You embody it until it finds its way home. And once you live from this truth, there is no going back. You stop playing small. You stop shrinking to protect others' comfort. You stop apologizing for the fire in your soul. You stop watering down your voice so the insecure can feel tall. You are no longer interested in fitting in. You are interested in becoming magnetic. Because success is not given, it is drawn. And you have become the magnet. So now, with the magnet forged, with your soul burning brighter than ever before, you stand at the edge of everything you've ever wanted, not with begging hands, but with open arms and unshakable identity. This is the moment where it all converges. The belief, the vision, the purpose, the discipline, the gratitude, the adaptability, the resilience, the learning, it all fuses into one force. You. Not the version of you that was handed to you by circumstance. Not the version of you shaped by wounds and whispers of self-doubt. Not the you that played small to fit a world that didn't know what to do with your power. But the real you. The version of you that has always been there waiting beneath the rubble of fear, of compromise, of hesitation. And now that version is here. You are the attraction. You are the vibration. You are the cause and. Success is the natural effect. There is no more striving, only becoming. You no longer hope to be noticed. You command attention through presence alone. You no longer hustle to be chosen. You choose yourself and make the world adjust. You no longer ask, will I make it? You know, I have already made it because I have become someone no failure can erase, no loss can define, no title can inflate, and no critic can break. You're no longer chasing results, you're living in alignment. And when you live in alignment, you attract what is meant for you effortlessly, magnetically, permanently. Because when you're clear, when you're focused, when you're disciplined from identity, the doors don't open because you knock. The doors open because you are the key. So this is your final call. Stop asking life for permission. Stop begging for breakthroughs. Stop wondering when it's your time. Your time is now. Your life does not respond to what you want. It responds to who you are. So become. Become the kind of person whose presence disrupts mediocrity. Become the kind of person who makes alignment look like abundance. Become the kind of person whose standards lift every room you walk into. Become the kind of person whose daily habits are a declaration of destiny. Become the kind of person who attracts success like gravity, not through noise, not through manipulation, but through unmistakable inner power. And when you dow and you finally commit not to the goal, but to the growth, you will see success was never running from you. It was simply waiting for you to rise to meet it. And now you have. So don't chase, don't beg, don't force, just become. Because success is something you attract by the person you become. The most dangerous prison is not the one with bars. It's the one built inside your mind, crafted from silent assumptions, fortified with unquestioned beliefs, and guarded every day by the excuses you whisper to yourself when no one's listening. Your philosophy is not what you say. It's not what you post. It's not the quotes you memorize or the books you've highlighted. Your philosophy is what you believe when it's inconvenient. It's the lens you carry into every decision. It's the silent compass beneath your every move. It's the architect of your reality. And here's the truth most people never confront. You don't get what you want. You get what you believe. You don't attract what you wish for. You attract what you're aligned with. You attract what your philosophy permits. Because life responds to conviction, not confusion. And if your beliefs are blurry, your life will be too. That's why you can change the strategy, change the job, change the environment. But if you never change the philosophy, nothing changes for long. Because no matter how fast you run, if you're on the wrong map, you'll still be lost. Jim Rohn said it best. Your personal philosophy is the major factor in how your life turns out. Not your talent, not your background, not your age, your timing, or your followers. Your philosophy. So the real question is not, what do I need to do? The real question is, what do I need to believe differently, to build differently? Because what you believe is building your life. Your habits didn't just appear. They were born from your beliefs. Your discipline or your distractions, they're all just reflections of your internal system. So if your life feels off track, don't start with your routine. Start with your root system. Start with what you've accepted as truth. Start with what you've allowed to live in your mind without ever asking, is this serving me or is it silently sabotaging me? Because most people aren't lazy. They're lost in a philosophy that told them to stay small. They're following a map someone else handed them. A philosophy of scarcity, of survival, of settling. They inherited it from people who never tasted freedom, who taught them to fear risk, to fear failure, to fear being different. And they accepted it because they never knew they had a choice. But you know now. You know that nothing changes until your beliefs change. You know that your actions are the echo of your inner code. You know that every external result is a mirror reflecting the unseen architecture you carry inside you. And now you can choose. You can rebuild your belief system from the ground up. You can replace doubt with discipline, scarcity with strategy, hesitation with identity. Because belief is not passive. Belief is the most powerful builder on this planet. It builds nations. It builds legacies. It builds futures. And if you don't choose your beliefs, someone else will. Your culture, your past, your trauma, your fear. But when you choose your philosophy, when you sit down with your life and say, this no longer belongs in my belief system, you reclaim your power. Because power doesn't come from effort alone. Power comes from alignment. And when your philosophy is aligned with truth, with growth, with purpose, your entire life begins to shift. Not slowly, instantly, because action follows belief. Energy follows belief. Results follow belief. So what do you believe right now that's keeping you broke? What do you believe that's keeping you average? What do you believe that's keeping you silent when your purpose is screaming to be heard? The wrong belief, left unchallenged, will cost you everything. But the right belief, planted, watered, and repeated, will rebuild your life from the inside out. That's the power of philosophy. It's the software behind your results. It's the script running in the background. It's the voice that either moves you forward or keeps you exactly where you are. And if you want new outcomes, you need a new operating system, not a new job, not a new plan, a new philosophy. Because philosophy is the foundation. And mindset is the first brick you lay. Not the surface kind, the real kind. The kind forged when no one claps. When it's cold outside, When your goals are invisible and your wins are quiet, that's where mindset lives. In the private conversations you have with yourself when pressure hits, when fear knocks, when things fall apart, and the old beliefs come whispering back saying, "See, I told you, stay small, stay safe." But now you don't listen because your new philosophy speaks louder. It reminds you that your current results are not a reflection of your capacity. They're a reflection of your clarity. And clarity is not found in noise. Clarity is found in courage. The courage to sit in silence, to confront your own chaos, to ask, what do I actually want? Not what looks good, not what impresses others, not what buys you a few likes or a few more digits. What matters to you? Because the moment you get clear on what matters, you stop majoring in what doesn't. You stop waking up just to be busy. You stop chasing validation. You stop spending your life on things that don't move the needle. You get focused. And that focus pulls vision into view. Not a fantasia future, one you build, one you become. And when your vision is born from a new philosophy, it stops being optional. It becomes inevitable. You don't chase it. It calls you. It speaks through your pain. It shows up in your reflection. It shows up when you say no to distractions. It shows up in the quiet commitment to stay aligned when no one's looking. And that alignment, that's purpose. Purpose is not something you find. It's something you uncover beneath the noise, beneath the expectations, beneath the fear. It's what remains when everything superficial gets stripped away. Purpose is what you fight for when pleasure doesn't work anymore, when the parties don't satisfy, when the applause fades, when the money doesn't fill the void. Purpose says, there is more to you than what you've allowed yourself to live. And when you remember that, when you feel that, you stop asking life for permission. You command it, not because you're arrogant, but because you're awake. You finally realize your time here is short and your impact is optional. But now you choose it. And purpose births discipline, not the discipline that feels forced, the discipline that feels like freedom, the kind that says, I don't have to do this, I get to. I get to rise early. I get to build. I get to lead. I get to protect my mind like it's sacred ground because it is. Discipline is no longer a punishment. It's a privilege because every disciplined act is a vote for your highest self. It's proof that you meant what you said in private. It's how you embody your new philosophy, not in theory, but in rhythm. And that rhythm, that's how you win. Not by force, not by drama, by showing up again and again and again. Discipline not because you're obsessed with the goal, but because you've fallen in love with the identity that lives on the other side of it. Because identity isn't found in thought. It's carved in motion. It's built in the quiet doing. You don't become confident by thinking about confidence. You become confident by proving to yourself that you keep your word, by showing up on the days when the emotion is gone and only the mission remains. That's why action is sacred. Not any action-aligned action. Action that's born from clarity, from philosophy, from purpose. You stop moving out of guilt. You stop moving out of pressure. You move because it's who you are now. And when action becomes identity, you don't need motivation anymore. You have momentum. You don't hesitate. You honor the impulse because hesitation is the gap where old beliefs try to sneak back in. But now your new beliefs are louder. Now you've taught your body to respond differently. Now you act because delay is no longer acceptable. And the more you move, the more you adapt. Because the world doesn't stay still and neither do you. You stop fearing change. You become change. You shift. You reframe. You evolve. You let go of being right and chase what's real. Because adaptability is power in motion. It's not about being perfect. It's about staying in the fight when the plan breaks down. It's about bending without breaking. It's about responding with wisdom instead of reacting from ego. And that wisdom, that comes from resilience, from falling 7 times and rising 8, from being humbled, not humiliated, from being refined, not destroyed. Resilience is the strength you earn by walking through fire and refusing to come out empty-handed. You don't just survive. You harvest. You learn. You integrate. You grow. Because now you understand. The obstacle was never the enemy. The enemy was the belief that it shouldn't be there. But now, your new philosophy welcomes resistance because resistance is the birthplace of greatness. And through every fall, every lesson, every failure, you rise. Not with shame, with clarity. And that clarity leads to the most important power of all. The ability to learn faster, to learn deeper, to learn again, even when you thought you already knew. Because the person who can learn, truly learn, is the person who cannot be stopped. They cannot be broken. They cannot be labeled. They cannot be trapped because every loss becomes leverage. Every weakness becomes a weapon. Every failure becomes fuel. And when you live that way, you're dangerous. Not to others still average, to mediocrity, to victimhood, to the outdated version of you that used to beg for change. Because now you are change. Then take a breath, because we're stepping into the final flame. This is the part they don't teach in schools. The truth they never told you growing up. The truth that makes the difference between a life that inspires and a life that expires unnoticed. Your beliefs are building your life. And every day, you're either reinforcing the old blueprint or drafting something bold, something aligned, something immortal. This is not poetry. This is physics. This is how reality bends. Not to your dreams, but to your dominant philosophy. So if you believe that struggle is personal, you'll resent the grind. But if you believe that struggle is process, you'll worship it. If you believe wealth is for the lucky, you'll reject abundance. But if you believe wealth is an effect of value, vision, and vibration, you'll attract it. If you believe discipline is punishment, you'll avoid it. But if you believe discipline is devotion, you'll fall in love with it. Your philosophy determines how you see the world. And how you see the world determines what's possible for you in it. So rewrite the code. Tear out the belief that says you're too late. Shatter the one that says you need to be perfect to begin. Delete the one that says people like me don't win. And replace it with, I am the kind of person who creates victory by who I become. Replace it with, I don't chase the outcome, I become the frequency. Replace it with, I am not my history. I am not my fear. I am the philosophy I practice daily. And that makes me limitless. Because now, you are the sculptor, the engineer, the author. You don't wait for life to hand you permission slips. You hand yourself a blueprint. You decide the rules. You build the values. You raise the standard. And you live it out loud. Because your beliefs are no longer accidental. They're intentional, precise, powerful. And the life that flows from them, it doesn't just inspire others. It awakens them. Because when people meet someone whose philosophy is embodied, not just spoken, not just posted, but lived, they feel it. They feel the weight of conviction. They feel the presence of truth. They feel the silence of someone who no longer argues for their limitations. And that person is you. So write the code, protect the code, and live the code. Because in the end, your philosophy is your religion, your character, your compass, your currency, and your reward, a life you don't need to escape from, a legacy that echoes beyond your name, a mirror that smiles back at you and says, well done. You didn't just think it, you became it. Because that's what this was all about. Not motivation, not hype, not another temporary high, but a total transformation at the level of philosophy. Because now you know your beliefs are building your life. And starting today, they build nothing less than extraordinary. Most people are not trapped by circumstance. They are trapped by permission, by unwritten rules, invisible contracts, unspoken codes, whispered by the culture around them that say, don't go too far, don't rise too high, don't outgrow what raised you. So they don't, not because they lack potential, but because they were trained to fear their own expansion. Your environment isn't just where you live. It's what you breathe. It's in the jokes people make about success. The way they look at ambition like it's arrogance. The way mediocrity gets praised and progress gets questioned. And slowly, that environment becomes a ceiling. A cage you can't see. A rhythm you never chose, but one you've learned to dance to. And here's the brutal truth. If you never confront it, you'll never escape it. Because you can't outgrow what you're still trying to belong to. You can't evolve while trying to be accepted by people committed to staying the same. You can't build something legendary while playing by rules written by the average. This is why most people never outgrow their environment. Because growth is lonely at first. You'll be called fake. You'll be told you've changed. You'll be warned to stay humble, to remember where you came from, as if evolution is betrayal. But you are not here to keep people comfortable. You are here to become dangerous to limitation. And that danger begins in your mind. Because your mindset is the first border your environment tries to build. Who do you think you are? What makes you different? Why can't you just be satisfied? That's the language of containment. That's how people defend their smallness, by attacking your growth. And if you don't have a fortified mindset, you'll start to believe them. You'll start to think something's wrong with your hunger. You'll start to downplay your wins. You'll self-sabotage just to feel normal again. You'll shrink back into the box you were told was safe, but was actually a coffin for your calling. But mindset rewrites the rules. Mindset says, I'm not here to fit in. I'm here to become who I was born to be. Mindset says, growth is not rebellion, it's responsibility. Because if you don't grow, you don't just let yourself down. You let everyone who needed your example sink with you. This is where belief comes in. The belief that you deserve to expand, that you can love your past without living in it, that you can honor your roots without rotting in them, that you don't owe your environment loyalty at the expense of your legacy. Most people never leave the mental city they were raised in. But you were built to migrate, built to step beyond familiar, built to trade comfort for clarity. And when clarity sets in, your vision ignites. Not someone else's vision, yours. The one that kept you up at night, the one that made you restless in rooms where everyone else was content, the one that whispered to you when the noise faded. There's more, there's more, there's more. And now that vision becomes your compass. And once you have a vision, the walls of your environment begin to tremble because vision demands movement. It breaks routines. It offends complacency. It threatens every system built to keep you small. And that's when purpose steps in. Because if vision is your map, purpose is your fuel. It's what makes you keep going when the environment turns against you. It's what makes you walk away from applause to protect your alignment. It's what keeps you from negotiating your future for temporary approval. Purpose makes it personal. It says, this isn't about being better than them, it's about being better than who I was told I had to be. It's about building something so real, so true, so deeply you, that the environment no longer defines you. You define it. And that's where discipline begins. Discipline isn't just about routines. It's about refusal. Refusal to become another echo of your surroundings. Refusal to let where you are decide where you're going. Refusal to trade your fire for comfort. And when that discipline becomes your default action, follows. Because once discipline becomes your rhythm, action becomes your anthem. You no longer move like someone waiting for permission. You move like someone who's remembered who they were before the world told them to dim it down, remembered the fire that existed before the opinions, before the approval, before the fear. You act, not just because it's time, but because it's truth. And when action becomes truth, your environment loses its grip. It no longer owns your pace. It no longer sets your temperature. You become the thermostat in every room you walk into. You raise the temperature. You raise the tone. You raise the standard. You don't adapt to the room. You transform it. Because now, your life isn't reactive. It's revolutionary. Your decisions are deliberate. Your energy is intentional. Your moves are backed by conviction, not convenience. And when the winds shift, because they always do, you adapt. But not like the old version of you, not like the one who bent to survive. You pivot to evolve. You move with strategy, not scarcity. You adjust your sails, not your standards. Because adaptability is not weakness. It is weaponized wisdom. It is the ability to outlast your surroundings by outgrowing them. Because resilience is your new name. You are not fragile. You are forged. Forged in resistance. Forged in rejection. Forged in the silent battles that no one applauded. And because of that, you do not break, you build. Even when it hurts. Even when you're tired. Even when the environment tells you to turn back. You keep walking. Because the strongest thing you ever built wasn't a career. Wasn't a brand. Wasn't even a legacy. It was your internal fortress. And that fortress is protected by learning. Not memorization, but transformation through experience. You don't just consume information, you apply it. You don't just listen, you adapt. You don't just nod, you execute. Because now you realize the most dangerous person in any environment is the one who learns faster than their surroundings can limit them. And now you've become that person. You no longer fear outgrowing people. You no longer fear offending those who chose comfort over calling. You no longer fear becoming too much, because too much is exactly what this world needs. Too much clarity, too much truth, too much fire, too much you. So let them talk. Let them whisper. Let them say, you've changed. And you'll smile, because now you know. Most people never outgrow their environment. But you didn't just outgrow it. You outlived it. You outlasted it. And you outbuilt it. Not because it was easy, but because you finally understood you were never meant to fit the room. You were meant to redefine it. And now you carry the proof in your posture. You walk like someone who has nothing left to prove, only something to become. Then stand tall, breathe deep, because this is the moment everything that came before meant something. The silence, the struggle, the friction of trying to expand in a space built to contain you. It all brought you here, to this edge, to this line in the sand, where the old you watches as the new you steps forward, not with apology, with authority. You are no longer the one waiting to be picked. You are no longer the one begging for a green light. You are no longer the one who drowns in the opinions of people too afraid to climb. You are the one who left, the one who heard the calling and answered, the one who stood at the gates of your old life. And instead of knocking again, you built a new door. You are the one who chose evolution over ego. You are the one who realized that staying small to keep the peace is violence against your destiny. And now you carry that truth like a torch, not to burn bridges, but to light the path for others still trapped in the environment you escaped. Because this isn't just about you anymore. This is about the next soul watching, the next life in the shadow of your legacy, the next voice waiting for permission to roar. And you are that permission. You are the proof that you can outgrow your upbringing, that you can outlive your labels, that you can outmaneuver the gravity of the familiar and fly anyway. And when they ask, how? When they look at your life and wonder how you built it from nothing, you won't give them a secret. You'll give them a sentence. I stopped waiting for my environment to change, and I changed instead. Because that's all it takes. Not perfection, not applause, not even support. Just one decision to rise. One vow to never again abandon your potential to protect someone else's comfort. One choice to believe. I am not what raised me. I am not what shaped me. I am what I choose to become, day by day, belief by belief, action by relentless action. Because now, you've outgrown more than your environment. You've outgrown every excuse that ever lived in your mouth. You've outgrown the need to be understood. You've outgrown the version of you that was scared to be seen. Now, you're undeniable. Because the most powerful thing a human can ever do is walk away from what built them, not with bitterness, but with mastery. So walk. Walk with fire. Walk with grace. Walk with the certainty that your environment no longer defines you. You define everything around you. And from this moment forward, you are not a product of your surroundings. You are the standard that shifts the world, and the world will feel it. It will feel the presence of someone who no longer shrinks, someone who doesn't ask if they're allowed, someone who doesn't trade their voice for comfort or their future for familiarity. Because when you outgrow your environment, you don't just leave a room, you change your gravity. People start to orbit you differently. Opportunities respond. Time expands. Resources appear not because they were missing, but because you stopped hiding from your own vibration. That's the secret no one tells you. Your new level of life has always been waiting, not behind some door you had to find, but behind the frequency you had to become. And now, you are that frequency. You are the storm that clears the old. You are the wind that bends the branches of stagnation. You are the shift that makes people whisper. Something changed. I don't know what it is, but they're not the same anymore. And they're right. You're not, because you stopped worshiping where you came from and started honoring where you're going. And there will be moments when you miss the old sounds, the familiar laughter, the rhythm of the rooms you left behind. But you'll look down at your hands, at what you've built, at who you've become, and realize it was worth it. Every step, every doubt, every silent season where no one understood you. It wasn't a punishment. It was preparation. Preparation for the kind of life that doesn't just break cycles. It builds kingdoms. And you are the architect now, not of a perfect life, but of a powerful one. One where your environment no longer limits you. It learns from you. One where your beliefs no longer betray you. They build you. One where your story is no longer a weight, but a weapon. Because this is what it means to live fully. Not to be admired, not to be accepted, but to be aligned. And once you are aligned, once your philosophy, your purpose, your actions, and your energy all move in one direction, you are unstoppable. Not because the world agrees, but because you're no longer asking it to. You are here, you are clear, and you are done explaining. You've outgrown it all. And from this moment on, you don't lower your voice. You raise your vision. You don't shrink to fit. You expand to lead. You don't just escape your environment. You rewrite what's possible in it. Because you were never meant to stay small. You were meant to stand tall enough for others to remember that they can grow too. You are not just a product of change. You are the proof that it's possible.